Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are. Hosted by Desiree Duffy.
Welcome to Books That Make You. We're talking about books that make you want to be somebody else. Yeah, like, oh gee, I don't know, maybe Santa Claus? Who else would you want to be, right? Books give us this amazing opportunity to be someone else. We get to see the world through someone else's eyes. After all, this is why we feel transformed when we're reading, right? I mean, isn't that the magic that we all crave from books? The essence of what makes reading just so powerful? When the words that we read feel like our own consciousness talking to us, we connect on a deep and meaningful level with something inside and outside of ourselves. Did you know that research even shows that reading helps develop empathy and compassion, especially in young readers? Our guest today is Gina Cavalier. Gina's book is the story of an 8-year-old boy who becomes Santa. It's a book of discovery and magic and wonder, and it's something that we all can relate to. Gina, hello. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Desiree. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you and all of your friends and colleagues this beautiful December day in Los Angeles.
Thank you. It's so wonderful having you. And I think your book is just so appropriate. And I love that idea, that theme of when we read, we just become somebody else. And that's really what your book is about. I don't know. Give me your thoughts. Give me your ideas. How do you think? What do you think happens when we read, when we transform through books and through stories?
I've been in love with storytelling since I was a very small child, both as a user and as a developer of stories. I always feel that it's transformative. You get to see and experience just very quickly without having to travel to a whole different destination, maybe what it might be like to be another person or to feel a certain way. And I think it does contribute to the toolbox of our emotionalities, that if we didn't have all these different stories, how could we have dreamed that, for example, Romeo and Juliet, that that's the story kind of telling love affair that we're searching for in our heart, or maybe a investigative journalist, wants to go to another country and put themselves on the line. Gives us opportunity to think outside of our box and maybe dream and strive for other areas. So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so fond of storytelling.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, absolutely. And you hit the nail right on the head there. You can be all of these different people in all of these different places and times as well. So you really can, you can understand what it's like to be that private detective or the Queen of Egypt or, working on a farm in somewhere in the middle of Nebraska. It's truly magical, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Now, why is this especially important for young readers? Because it seems that when children and young adults, teenagers are reading, that's really a time for them to explore not only books, but again, all of those different adventures. Why do you think that this is so important for young people?
Well, especially like the Gen X people coming up and the Gen Ys. They're so technically advanced and have had a tablet in front of their face since they were very little. And if you don't have storytelling, what do you have? What are they looking at? So I think it's an opportunity. So they've gotten those skills down, and we can, through story, express some of the other modalities that us as what I would call an elder or a more experienced person can bring down to our next generation and tell them and express different things that we hope that they will grasp onto and see the meaning behind some of these morals and character developments as they change, and see that themselves can change.
And you hit on something really important, too. I think that storytelling has changed, at least very recently, because, like you said, we have tablets that are glued to our hands since we're babies at this point. Do you feel that technology has hampered or improved our ability to appreciate stories?
Well, I think we're going through another transformation right now that I'm a little bit excited about. I think social media has kind of hit its peak, and from what I can tell, people are seeking other ways to have experiences and communicate with people and meet different people. And it's still there, but it's sort of in the background. It's starting to go in the background instead of the foreground. So people are looking for deeper, richer experiences. And from what I've been hearing is they're actually going back to the printed word and experiencing the illustrations in a deeper way. And so I think this is an exciting time, I think, because now we're really going to have people that are educated and understand technology, but want to use it in a way that's not so isolationist and find other ways to bring people together. And I feel like people are going to start to develop plays more and do things, create opportunities for people to be face-to-face a little bit more instead of isolationist. So that's kind of what I'm hoping will happen.
Yeah, me too. You're right. I mean, the internet and technology, the Internet of Things, gives us so many opportunities to connect, and we can do virtually anything now as far as stories. We can get together and do a play together online. We could record it, and we could transmit it to people all over the world. We couldn't do that even just 15, even just 10 years ago, really. So it has so much potential. I think we're just beginning to scratch the surface of that. And it's very exciting. So how about if you tell us about your book? Tell us about How I Became Santa Claus.
Well, I usually find a piece of something I want to say in my heart. That's the first thing I usually find when I'm doing a story. And usually maybe it's like a morality or some type of life lesson that either I've gone through and I want other people to go through. And I wasn't setting out to do a Santa Claus book, but it came together because I had this deep desire to express, especially to young people, that you can be or do anything you want, but you really have to put your nose to the grindstone and do the work, that it's not going to just come to you. Mm-hmm. That the people that have achieved great things aren't looking for the fast buck or the fast fame. It's a long haul. You have to do the journey. You have to do the work. And if you're so lucky that you do become famous or rich, like, that's the icing on the cake. But it's enriching your life and becoming that which you want to be, which is like a writer or an artist or an illustrator. So I was in an antique store, and for some reason I picked up this weird old Santa Claus that was obviously handmade, who knows by who, and another snowman article, and this handmade house. It was a birdhouse, actually, but it was super cool. It looked like it was made out of an old mining townhouse. And I don't know why I had these three things, and I just put them on my mantle, and I was living in Park City, Utah at the time. And I just kept staring at these three things, and I got this story. And so when I put it together, was that people think about Santa Claus and they have all these great stories, but what would he have to leave behind to become the man that he is? So I developed this story that he was born, he had destiny to be this, but he had free will to choose. And also he came from a very poor family in my book, but he had 8 brothers and sisters growing up in a poor mining town. They didn't have any money. They basically ate carrot soup for dinner every night, but they were so rich with love in their family. And he made the decision to go ahead and be this other person, knowing that he was going to have to leave his family. So it was just a way to say, sometimes to be something really exceptional, you have to do hard things and make hard choices. And that's sort of what I was trying to get through to persons and children.
I love that. I love that you had these found objects, and that was the genesis for everything. And you're absolutely right. Anything worth having is worth working for. And not to sound like the old lady saying these kids nowadays, but there is a certain sense if something comes too easy, if somebody becomes suddenly insta-famous and they didn't really have to work for it, I don't know if they appreciate it as much as when somebody puts in the hours and puts in the time to learn and perfect a craft or a skill.
Yeah, I've been listening to Jim Carrey a lot. And when you listen to him, who, has had incredible success, he's going the other way now, where he's recognizing the journey. And, I've been, he's just a good person to really listen to some of his speakings right now. But he got fame, like incredible amount of fame and money. And the way he talks about fame and money, it's just really rewarding to see. I also don't think that it's, a coincidence that you see a lot of these child actors have problems getting that so easy and early in life without being grounded and being able to kind of do whatever you want. There's a pattern there. It's not something we're making up. Mm-hmm. So I do. I reach out to some of my friends too who feel like they're in a hole and they can't achieve something. The other thing that I'm very passionate about is no matter what age or what someone does, when they come to me and they talk to me about something they're passionate about, even when I was earlier on when I was an agent, I don't subscribe to the fact that you should be an expert and you should tell somebody not to do their creativity at any age. I don't care if it's a 90-year-old person come up to me and tell me they have a story. Mm-hmm. I say, go for it. Like, I'll help you. I'm working with a gentleman right now who's about 80 years old, and he owns one of the largest law firms in the entire country. Mm-hmm. More money than you could ever want. And his passion right now is screenwriting. And he kept saying, is it too late for me? Is it this and that? And I said, absolutely not. And, he put all these doubts in his own head a little bit. And this is a really successful and wealthy person. But there's fear attached to trying something new. So the reason why I speak about it is when I hear people try to tell people like, oh, you're too old, or no, you haven't had the right schooling, or you haven't had the right education, or, your thing, that's not your thing. I had a lot of people tell me, you know what, Gina, you should just be an artist, not a writer. Mm-hmm. And, I did let that set me back for years sometimes. One person's opinion, and it was my fault for listening to them, but I also like to remind people not to project their own judgments on people like that might you might unknowingly be hindering them from a creative process. And that, I just like to put it out there because I love it. I want people to support other people through whatever is in their heart.
That's so true. And you hear that a lot, and I hear it in my own head. I think we all have that voice that says, oh, you should have done this 10 years ago. You can't do this now. You're too old for that. And there is a lot of ageism in the workplace, in Hollywood, in entertainment, in everything, really. So you're never going to be as young as you are right now. Time is linear. We age in a linear fashion. Your 80-year-old friend, next year he's going to be 81. It's never going to go backwards. So there never is a better time than right now. You know?
And we just need to have these conversations. And when I was working at Warner Brothers, I built an employee group that became really successful really fast. I signed 1,000 members in about 3 days.
Wow.
With after a couple months of marketing. And even the highest end presidents came up to me and asked me how I did that. Literally, like, how did you do that? And I said, because I invited everybody. Mm-hmm. And when I reminded them that, you know, there's a lot of things to learn from us little older people that have been through a lot, that some of these younger generation people will find very useful to them. And then there's things that they have that we can find very useful, that we can learn from them. And when we both let down our guard and learn from each other is where we all, like, all boats rise with the tide type thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm really passionate about that kind of mission and message to my community at this time.
Oh, I love it. And let's talk about, okay, you're an author, and you mentioned your career at Warner Brothers. Let's talk about some of the other things that you've done as well, because you are a very versatile, multi-talented woman, Gina.
Thank you so much. I like to keep busy. I don't know. You can put all kinds of titles on it. First off, I'm an Aquarius, and I don't know if that means a lot to a lot of people, but anytime you meet an Aquarius person, usually they're going to have multi-faceted things that they like to do. It's just how we're built. I can't explain it. But so I like to bring people. My big passion is bringing communities together with charity, and also completing and achieving great results. Whether it's having an event about technology or about women's issues. I'm really into something called No Free Labor right now, where I'm doing a campaign where a lot of these big companies are trying to get people, usually hourly employees, to volunteer to promote functions within their company, and they're not paying them. Mm-hmm. And I'm developing a campaign to get these people paid, because it's just another form of sweatshop labor stuff, and it goes unnoticed because they use dangly carrots, promotions and things like that. So I'm doing a lot of activism type stuff. The Me Too movement, I'm really passionate about that. Living in Hollywood, have seen the devastational what some of these people's careers have had to go through, and knowing how hard it is to confront someone, especially very powerful people with a lot of money, and putting these people in lawsuits and strangling them and putting their life on hold. It's very scary, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done with Me Too. It's literally just the tip of the iceberg. I've been involved in I'm very excited about new technologies and how to do storytelling through new technologies, whether it's augmented reality or different interesting ways to create content. I've worked with Netflix recently on, Netflix is a really interesting company because they really do move fast, and they're always looking to better their product and also make it faster so they can deliver. So they're one of my favorite clients. I love working with them. The people that work there They're young, they're old. They just do, each person does a really good job. I've had a lot of different careers. I mean, back in my 20s, I owned a modeling agency, and I had my own radio show as well. I was married to the singer of Flogging Molly, where I was thrust into the music scene quite often. Traveled the world, traveling with him, and each thing you just kind of pick up and learn. You just take these different, people and opportunities with you. And for me as a writer, I like to keep my eyes open, and you'll never know when you're going to need these experiences. So when you're writing a story and you have an interesting character that you're developing, you have no idea where you're going to pull these wacky traits out. And usually it's just these weird people that you meet on the road, whether it was on a tour bus or some kind of weird festival or event. So I've really subscribed to the theory of yes. So just say yes. You can't do it all the time, but just when people invite you to places, and all these experiences add up, especially when you're a writer.
Oh, yeah. It's like the old saying, too, that you never want to make a writer angry, because there's a really good chance you'll end up in their book.
I have actually done that. Yeah. I'm not kidding you. And it does help when you're trying to pull out, some anger, and you're like a boss who is particularly not very gracious to you or something.
Yeah. Well, and that's the writer's well. That's why we have all of those experiences, and that's, like you said, you've done all of these things, so that's you being a writer, is just pulling out those personality traits. Could have been something somebody said to you or did to you, and I love it. I'm
also really passionate about mentorism, menteeism. I always have at least one or two mentees, and
that's great.
And actually, it winds up helping me more, because I learn about the apps that they're using to better organize, that are super helpful to brands and companies. And when I went into Netflix, if I hadn't worked with these mentees that taught me some of these new apps for management, I would have looked like I was in the dark ages. So you never know. It's easy to think, well, how much time is this going to take out of my life to help this person? If you have to leave that behind, because you really have to say, we're both going to learn from each other. And I have this diversity council now, and one of the girls I'm mentoring is from Africa. So her input is invaluable in that space, and I wouldn't have had that if I didn't reach out to her. We didn't help each other. So
that's amazing. Yeah, I love that. I love the diversity aspect too. And one of the things that strikes me, I'm going to circle all the way back to Jim Carrey, because when you mentioned his name, it actually reminded me of you, because he's an artist. He's painting now. And you also illustrated your book. That's something that we haven't mentioned yet. Tell us about the illustration, and what was that like?
So I did 50 illustrations, which I would absolutely say is something I learned not to do in a book for many reasons. I did it all by pen, and I was having to get injections into my elbow because I was wearing it down. It was so painful. But also, you just don't need that many visuals. But I wouldn't call myself an illustrator, people, I didn't even believe in my art. People told me, you're an artist. And I'm like, nah, not really. I can't afford anybody, and I'm trying to express myself. But really, I love writing. And then people will say, well, can you do my art show? And I just look at them like they're really crazy. And I still kind of do. Like, I don't see myself as an artist, but it was a means to an end. And what I mean is that I just was tired. When you write screenplays and you do these big projects, they could take years to, if they ever do come into fruition. So I was frustrated, and I really just said, hey, I have 3 months. I want to write this book. And I wrote down everything I needed to do. So I wrote the manuscript, get an editor, and I wanted to do the illustrations. And so when I had 50 illustrations, I said, you can only spend 1 day on one picture per day.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 50 pictures. It took me I did a picture a day.
Wow.
And sometimes those pictures were 8 hours long. And I just put myself on that timeline, and I couldn't miss a day. I just couldn't. So, I did the whole book in 3 months, and then I self-published it. And what it did do for me was tenfold, because it showed me I could finish and complete something all by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it showed other people that I could finish and complete something. And when you walk into a meeting, and whether it's their thing or not their thing, I'm talking about a client meeting or a job you're trying to get, or you're trying to raise money for your project. When you carry these done projects with you and you just put it on their desk, it is impressive. It doesn't have to be published by the top publisher or anything. They love seeing that you could complete a thought.
Mm-hmm.
That has a lot of weight in it. So people that are frustrated and can't seem to get their career off ground, I would say do something that you feel like you can complete on your own, and put a tight time frame on it. Don't put 6 months, a year on it, because that all of a sudden, something can come into place and set you off. Something literally 2 or 3 months. Whether it's like, I want to do a cookbook, I want to do a book of poems, anything, but somewhere where you could put the period on it. And because people want to know what you finished. And
that is such great advice. Yes, because you meet people all the time. Well, I'm working on this, I'm working on that. Not that your work in progress isn't important, but when there's something that's tangible and complete, like you said, you're proving to the world, hey, I can do this. I can follow it all the way through.
Yeah, and it speaks volumes. I mean, a lot of these times when I was talking to these presidents of Warner Brothers, I would just bring my book and put it on their desk and be like, oh, and they would just look at me like we would be talking something totally different, like doing a technology event. But hey, I'm the president of Warner Brothers who signs all the movie deals. I'm just going to put my book on his desk. You don't want to miss that opportunity. So, and also if you have a bunch of books, you can stand outside and give them away to kids, or, there's just things that you can do with it. So.
Oh, I love it. No, let's tell everybody where they can find your book, because I bought my copy a couple years ago when we first met, actually, and I gave it to my nephew, Dax, at the time. And by the way, his mom is an art teacher. My sister is an art teacher, and she loved your illustrations, by the way. So you should be very proud.
Yeah, I'm on Amazon right now. I'm actually redoing the book with another editor, and possibly through Persnickety Press next year. Mm-hmm. I'm really want to do a movie of the week script and try to get it into like a Netflix or something like that. So I'm going to be working on that next year. I have a 5-book series that I'm working on right now called Thomas Fine in the Mystery School, and it's it's sort of like Star Wars meets Harry Potter underwater. So it's high concept. There's but also very simple with a good cast of teenagers. I just kind of That sort of seems to be one of my favorite genres, is just teenagers. I guess I'm stuck at, people always say, Gina, it's like you haven't grown up. I'm like, exactly.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. I'm going to have you come back again, Gina, because we could keep talking and talking and talking, but unfortunately I have to get going here. And maybe next time we'll talk more about your 5-book series, because that sounds amazing. Really quick, can you tell people where they can find you, either social media, or do you have a website, anything like that?
Oh, I'm at cavalieroriginals.com. My book is on Amazon under How I Became Santa Claus. And just Gina Cavalier. I'm on Instagram. And that's the best place to find me.
Perfect. Gina, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Desiree.
You are welcome. Once again, this has been Books That Make You. I'm your host, Desiree Duffy, and you can find out more about the books that make you who you are on our website. That's booksthatmakeyou.com, and you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Until next time, enjoy all of the books that you read and that you love. Grab Gina's books and stay positive right here on MyStar95.com with music for the soul.
The executive producer for Books That Make You is Desiree Duffy. Produced and sound mastered by Phil Giangrande. Engineering by Dave Nabox. Social media and promotion by Bree Sweeter. For more, visit booksthatmakeyou.com.